Ambassador Kelin, welcome to Roundtable.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. We have a lot to discuss. I want to begin with Russia's war in Ukraine. President Putin says that there will be peace when you achieve your goals. What are those goals?
Well, they are pretty clearly formulated. Actually, we would like demilitarization of Ukraine, denazification, which is also important, and neutrality of Ukraine. So it should not be a sort of breakthrough instrument of NATO countries or the West against Russia. It should not provide threat for Russia. And of course, it should not discriminate Russian people that are living in Ukraine.
Because what threat was Ukraine to Russia at the outset?
What kind of threat it was? Well, it was very serious, in fact, threat. And the Western countries, NATO and European Union, they used to work on this subject for about 8 years, reinforcing Ukraine, making its army the biggest in Europe. It counted at the beginning of the special operation 250,000. This is quite a lot. Poland, for instance, which is of comparable size as Ukraine, has only 100,000. Britain, even much less than that. So this army was standing on our border, and we have an information that it was ready to attack Donbass. If it is going to attack Donbass, then it will be a bloody bust over there, and Western countries will say simply that they are acting on their own territory. Of course, this could not be a gun, of course.
The Ukrainians will say that they built their military that way because of the threat they felt was being posed by Russia.
They started to build their army earlier. It is since 1914, right after the coup d'etat happened in Kiev, and they have got a new government, which initially was supposed to be a government of peace, but it turned out into the government of war, because it has taken up an ideology of which is extreme nationalism, which is close to Nazism. I mean, discrimination of other nationalities, proclaiming Ukrainians sort of uber alles, of course, and that was the main cause of the events which happened later on, because we have felt that it is becoming more and more threatening to Russia. And since they proclaimed a course of going into NATO, it was even more threatful, because under NATO umbrella, attacking Donbass or attacking Crimea, it makes a situation close to the World War III.
We were told at the outset that this was a special military operation. The feeling was that it would last days, if not weeks. We're almost at the 2-year anniversary now, and there is a feeling in the West that Russia can't defeat Ukraine, Ukraine can't defeat Russia. At what point will you sit down and talk peace?
Well, it is this phrase, I would say, this is very questionable. Russia can and will defeat Ukraine, of course, because the capabilities are incomparable. Russia has very many resources inside the country of its own. Ukraine is now living, Ukraine's budget is now only half Ukrainian, the other half is being paid by the United States and European Union. Same is with armament, because Ukraine does not produce nearly at all, just some portions of this armament. Everything is freebie, is coming for nothing from US and other European countries. But these, I would say, supplies, they are becoming thinner and thinner. At one moment, either they will stop or there will not be sufficient resources to go against Russia. So I cannot say when it is going to happen, because it's a question for $1 million right now, as they say. But we will have to achieve goals which I have indicated: demilitarization, denazification, neutrality of Ukraine. And I'm not certain that we are going to stop all these actions for pause in the negotiations. Once we have already done this in April 22, but we have been cheated. We have stopped And we have even withdrawn some of our forces which were near Kiev and Chernihiv. And Ukraine has said, okay, you have withdrawn, no negotiations. And even more, now some prominent figures in the Ukrainian government, parliament, and the party, they are saying that Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of Great Britain at that time, he has come to Ukraine and said, no negotiations, we are going to fight. Where is Johnson now?
You've just used the phrase freebies to describe international support for Ukraine. How much then does it anger Russia that Ukraine has had global support?
This is not global. The European Union and the United States, it is not global at all. It is just some portion in the world. I cannot compare. The other world, especially global South, Asian countries, they do not support it. They do not support it at all. They are just calling for peace as soon as possible. I do understand that.
So is the Russian game plan that eventually people will get fatigued with Ukraine and supporting Ukraine and you will just grind on relentlessly? Is that the plan?
I cannot say what is the plan because I am not the general staff, neither I am the president. I am ambassador here in the United Kingdom. But I do believe that the end game will be a sort of a situational. The Western countries should have to understand that Ukraine at the moment is the poorest state. And the more situation is going to prolong, it might come a failed state. Either it will come soon if the flow of money and weapons will stop immediately, so it might come soon, or it will be prolonged and the failure of this state will be even deeper.
Tell me, does the strength of the resilience then and the resistance from the Ukrainian people, has that surprised Russia?
I will say that those who are doing it, they are fighting for money, Ukrainians that are fighting.
They would say they're fighting for pride, for their sovereignty, for their own safety.
No, I don't believe that, really. We know Ukrainians. There are lots of Ukrainians in Russia. There are lots of Russians in Ukraine. Those who are now in trenches over there, they are speaking Russian. Unfortunately. So it's a sort of a civil war between us. But this is not like in the Second World War where Germans were attacking the Soviet Union. So there is no antagonistic contradictions over there. The problem is in the government, and the problem is in the extreme nationalism ideology which this government of Ukraine has taken up.
Can I ask then, the European Union wants to enlarge, Ukraine wants to be a member of the European Union going forward. How much of a provocation to Russia would it be if Ukraine was granted membership of the European Union?
It's a good question. First of all, we have to make an analysis, of course, on this subject. It is not yet there, but as I understand, the promising of beginning of negotiations, it is just a symbolic gesture at that time. Turkey is now negotiating for already 18 years or something like that, entry of Ukraine. So, of course, Ukraine needed a certain support, political support on the side of the European Union. It has been done. Most important is that the financial contribution to Ukraine has been blocked for the moment. Perhaps it will resume in January. I can assume that.
Did Russia influence that?
However,
Orban?
just a second. However, I should explain that European Union, this is about money. It is about leveling the whole space of European Union, equalize it. And I hardly can imagine that big countries of Europe will be eager to give their own money to the poorest countries in Europe. They have already done it with Bulgaria, Romania, and the result was detrimental. So to repeat all that, I don't believe that they will dare to do that.
Viktor Orban of Hungary has blocked 50 billion euros worth of aid to Ukraine. Did Russia lean on him?
I don't think so. He is protecting his own national interests of Hungary, Slovakia and the others because they fully understand if this will continue, they, instead of being recipients of assistance from European Union, they will turn into contributors of that. So they have to get money from the budgets, from budget of Poland, Hungary, who are now recipients, Bulgaria, Romania, and to contribute it to Ukraine, but it will be all in vain. It will be lost money.
You mentioned Boris Johnson. He was very prominent in his support of Ukraine. He visited Kyiv many times. What was your opinion of his trips and his relationship with Zelensky and his support of Ukraine?
He has taken up a totally wrong course of actions. And it was strategic miscalculation and grave mistakes. But at the moment, he is irresponsible. He has gone out of the scene, and consequences will lay upon the government which will come in London in time of the big failure. And this government will have to explain to the citizens why and how did they have put on this wrong course of actions.
There is a school of thought, certainly in London, that if Russia can't win this war, and peace talks do happen, you would accept Donetsk and Luhansk becoming Russian, and that would be the price of peace. The Ukrainians say they won't give up an inch of their sovereign soil. What do you think Russia would accept for peace?
Now we are sort of coming to the beginning of our conversation, because I cannot predict what will be the end game, because we will continue until we will get our goals realized, in fact.
What's the support for the war in Russia amongst the Russian public?
No, let's put it like that. President's support, and the last poll has been done yesterday, it was 77% to 79% of those who are supporting President Putin as a figure, and 78% are supporting his policy. So that is very high, I would say.
President Putin has blamed the United States for blowing up the Nord Stream pipeline to Russia in September 2022. Is that Russia's view? Russia thinks that was done by the Americans.
Since he has expressed his opinion, I do believe that he has sources to whom he believes that is for certain. But I can say it for sure, it was not in our interest at all. So those who are trying to trace Russians, something Russian being done in this case, it is totally wrong. So we cannot support this.
Let's look ahead to 2024. There are elections in your country, there are elections in the United Kingdom, and there will be a presidential election in the United States. First of all, the election in your country, free and fair?
When I was at the ministry, I have a lot of time to deal with this. I can see that they are conducted absolutely in whole fairness, and there are lots of mechanisms and systems that are supporting it. It's totally different from the United States, where you even do not have to turn to show your ID when you're coming for election poll. Second, US does not allow observers to come. We welcome all observers, let it be OSCE, let it be from other countries. Asia is now prepared to save, so it's controlled.
So you're saying elections in Russia are more transparent than elections in the United States?
Absolutely, yes.
Really?
Really, that is true, and that was conclusion that we have. Previously I've served at the OSCE, and I have seen many examples in comparing these two systems of elections.
So how much does it frustrate you, how much does it frustrate Russians that the perception is that your election is just a procession that Vladimir Putin will win regardless?
I cannot say it for the moment whether other candidates will come in the loop, because I have heard certain names, of course, being called up by minorities or other groups of people, but all these candidates who would like to compete with Mr. Putin, they have initially to bring 300,000 of supporters. Then they will have to go to the election committee and being registered. The names that are now in the air, I hardly believe that they can get that many people, but perhaps, I do not, perhaps, it's not excluded. Then we will see what will be the real tells.
If President Putin wins, that gives him another 6 years. He would serve as president until 2030. He could then go again for another 6 years?
No, I have no idea about that. It's a decision of President Putin, what he's going to do. Now, during the election time or later on, but we have seen him recently on the television several times. He's in a very good shape, I would say.
Just on that point, he's 71 years old, so he's younger than Trump. He's very much younger than Biden. Do you feel he has more energy, more to give? What's your reading of age as politicians go?
There is no comparison with Biden, I do believe, about performance by Biden and by President Putin at all. So that's.
And tell me, looking at the United States elections, you have potentially Biden going against Trump in 2024. Who would Russia like to see win that?
I cannot beat any opinion on that, because see, if I will say anything about it, it will be just pictured as since we are intervening into US elections.
Understood. Just looking at the age dynamic of the two men, are you surprised that the United States doesn't have more thrusting, energetic young men or women to stand for president?
First of all, I will say that the average age of active people is increasing right now, and this is worldwide phenomena, and it pertains also my country as well. So that, of course, it is not like so 20 years ago. If you are 60, you have to go from on pension. This is understandable, of course. I think that there are, of course, younger candidates available, but you have, at this high position, you have to combine your state of health, your energy, together with your experience worldwide. Only this combination makes you a trustful personality.
Tell me about the relationship between Russia and the United States right now. Is it at its lowest point?
Very bad. I will say that the lower, they have never been as low as that. No communication on many sides. Cut off relationship because of Ukraine. I think it was a wrong course at all.
So it's lower now than it was, say, in the 80s?
In the 80s, there were much more consultations. We have had, in 75, we had already Helsinki Decalogue of Principles, how to live together, the peaceful coexistence. And we have, at that time, much more treaties on arms that are curbing arms race, that are providing for disarmament and arms control. At the moment, situation is much worse.
Do you think if there is a change of administration in Washington in 2024, perhaps Donald Trump coming back, that would lead to a thawing of relations?
Experts on the United States policy, mainly they are saying that Trump is unpredictable, absolutely. So what is going to happen if he is going to come, it is better to see what he is going to do.
What's your impression of Trump?
He's energetic, he is interested, he has his own views. But there is a deep state in the United States which is conducting and ruling many of the policies. So what is going to happen, really, this is unpredictable.
Is he someone that Russia can do business with better than Joe Biden, perhaps?
With Joe Biden, we have no business at all.
No business?
No.
No relationship?
No relationship.
And it's not possible to rebuild?
This surprised me because earlier Joe Biden was a very experienced politician. He has traveled to Russia many times when even he was much younger, and to drive a relationship in such a stalemate, this is surprising for me.
So the relationship, would you say, dead?
Breeze, I prefer to say dormant.
Dormant. It's on life support.
Yeah, sort of.
Let's look at elections in this country, in the United Kingdom, in 2024. You have a Conservative government here that's been in power 13 years. Labour under Keir Starmer are now 20 percentage points ahead in the polls. What's your reading of the elections in the UK in 2024?
If you will not consider my remarks as an intervention in internal politics, I will say that for us it makes no difference, since the programs of Labours and Tories, they are absolutely the same. I didn't discover much of a difference in the programs of two parties.
So you believe the manifesto for Conservatives and Labour are pretty much the same thing?
Absolutely. We did analyze what has happened during party conference here and there. Of course, look into they are promising what they are saying. Also, for us, it is important. Most important is the international views. Of course, that's how do they do. But even domestically, they does not deviate one from the other.
Tell me then about the relationship between Russia and the United Kingdom right now.
That was not our initiatives, but the British government has cut off all the relationship in the fields, not only in political one, but also humanitarian, economical. The trade is right now has been cut off by 94%, and they're proud of it. I do not know why. It is not detrimental for United Kingdom itself because they are cutting off their capabilities and possibilities. But if they decided so, then of course we are not eager to drive our interests, actually to improve. So it is up to them. If they decided to cut off relationship, okay, let it be cut off. When they will be more realistic, then okay, we will look at it and say. At the moment, these are mostly two embassies that are, one British in Moscow and a Russian embassy here, that are keepers of this relationship.
You described the relationship with the Americans as dormant. What words would you use to describe the relationship with the Brits?
Similar, I would say, similar.
Is there any hope it can be revived?
I do not know, but it belongs not to us. If then it will be initiative here in Britain because we are not initiators of all of that. We are just happen to be in this situation. But if there will be initiative, we will look at it. But we will look at it, I would say, not willingly, but actually we should understand what behind it is.
How do you feel about the sanctions that have been imposed on wealthy Russians in the United Kingdom? How much has that hurt Russians?
It is not only wealthy Russians, it is about 1,800 Russians are under sanctions for the moment, and British government is proud to sanction more and more people. I think that it is illegitimate at all, and I have seen already some ideas that why, how the foreign minister can sanction people without court, without explanation, just like that, of course. And I think that the right way to deal with that is to go into the courts. Then next is sanctions did not deteriorate life in Russia at all. I was recently in Moscow and haven't seen that, and across Russia at all. Our GDP, by the end of the year, it will be 3.5% the growth of it.
I thought it was 2.2%. That was what the IMF is saying.
You look at the new figures.
Okay, so you've got some new figures on that. Just tell me then, the British government would say that the Russians who've been sanctioned in this country have been sanctioned for a reason, for supporting your president, for supporting Russia's war machine, and they would say it's absolutely fair.
Is it a reason supporting the president? Is it a reason for sanctioning? That is funny already. It sounds funny, and it is for nothing. I will say that the overall majority of those that has sanctioned, they are sanctioned for nothing. It is just occasionally they have done without grounding, without proving it. Because initially I understand that British government is supposed to prove this sanctioning, but I don't see the process.
It has been a very interesting time in British politics. In the time that you've been ambassador here, there have been several prime ministers. I just want to go through them and get your impressions of them. Boris Johnson, what did you think of him?
We discussed Boris Johnson already.
But domestically, how did you think he played to the UK public? What did you think seeing him in the papers every day?
Domestically, initially I was thinking that he is energetic and he will be beneficial for UK economy, which did not happen at all. When the UK has withdrawn from the European Union, first idea was UK is going to go global. Nothing happened. There is no free trade agreement with the United States. Then a new ideology was taken, let's deal with the middle-sized and middle economy countries. Nothing happened either. UK's economy is, it is around zero. Last month it was 0.2 up. This month it is 0.3 down, and not much of it.
Then we had Liz Truss become Prime Minister for 6 weeks.
Yes,
What did you make of her?
I have seen her as performing as a foreign minister, and my feelings, I would say, I even cannot describe it. Once I have come to see Liz Truss when she was trying to set up a conversation, but he didn't listen to me. He just got up and went out of the room in which
Liz Truss did?
Yes, of course. So she does not listen, neither people nor anyone at all.
Were you surprised she became Prime Minister?
I was not surprised. I have seen that she is deep-rooted into her party, and the party is, of course, supporting her. But every Englishman whom I met privately said it will be a disaster, and it turned into a disaster, of course.
And then came Rishi Sunak, who is still Prime Minister. What's your reading of him as a domestic politician?
We are judging him first and foremost for his steps in foreign politics. He decided to be leading a coalition of diplomatic attacks on Russia. Then he proclaimed that he will lead a coalition of tanks against Russia, aircrafts against Russia. Now, recently he said he will lead a coalition of on the sea of the ships against Russia. Everything is against Russia. Okay, good. But domestically, as I understand, his rating now is about 21% of those who are approving him. And there are reasons for that. He didn't improve economy. The economy here is in stagnation, in a poor situation, and the government that he is leading, they didn't manage to come out of this situation.
Do you think Britain has gone backwards since Brexit?
I would better abstain from making a judgment on this side. It is up to domestic politics, domestic politicians, those who are debating.
But in your time living here, have you seen standards slip? Do you think things have got worse?
No, we are seeing prices for the foodstuff. It has doubled since we have come here.
Well, a lot of people would say Russia has caused that by going to war with Ukraine.
Ukraine's war has nothing to do with the food prices here in Britain. It was a miscalculation during the pandemic time when Britain has, as well as the United States, they have simply given out a lot of British pounds and printing money and distributing to the public. This is what really has given a boost to the energy prices and to the prices in every sector of it.
You're saying Russia is being blamed for the cost of living crisis in the UK unfairly. Is that what you're saying?
It is very simply to put a blame to someone else while making mistakes with a government. It's usual example when a government is making mistakes, it is just looking for someone to put a blame on him.
And it's easy to blame Russia.
Oh yes, of course. They're blaming us for everything.
I want to ask you about energy prices then, because a lot of people in the UK feel that energy prices have astronomically increased because of Russia's war in Ukraine. At what point do you think European countries will start purchasing Russian oil and gas again at pre-2022 levels?
I think it is the same, like they say, it is shooting in your own leg. They decided to cut off Russia from supplying energy to Europe. Now they are buying, Germany for instance, and others are buying American energy, gas and oil 30% higher. As for Russia, Poland has cut off a pipeline that was going from Yamal into Europe. Ukraine has cut off a pipe, one of two pipes which were going across the territory of it. Finally, they have blown up gas pipes that were going via Baltics over there. So what we have to blame for?
Well, the West say Russia blew those up.
It is impossible to find our interest in blowing up these pipes because they were providing a lot of money to us, and we just finished second pipelines. Nord Stream 2 is ready, and it is still is capable to provide certain gas to Germany if they like it. But they like to buy it 30% higher from the United States. United States is in a good position. They are just saying, yes, we have achieved quite a lot in it.
How damaging then for Russia's economy has the impact of the oil and gas sanctions been?
Well, not much. As I told you, which is the figure is that we are going up this year to more than 3%, definitely. Last year it was down around 2%. It means that we have overdone this, that we managed to get out of this down and we are going up immediately. We simply re-oriented all our provision of gas and oil into the other countries, to China, to India, and all of that stuff. It has not started with the beginning of the operation in Ukraine. We started to build up the force of Siberia pipelines to China earlier, much earlier. We were prepared to do this because we understand where are the centrum right now of development, and they are in Asia. And we try to orient our supplies to Asia. Of course, we do not intend to cut off Europe totally. Some of the countries in Europe, they continue to receive oil and gas from Russia, and we have long-term contracts with them, and we continue to implement these contracts.
I want to ask you about Israel's war in Gaza. How does Russia feel about what you've been seeing on television screens for months and months now? Is there a role for Vladimir Putin and Russia to get involved and I noticed that Benjamin Netanyahu is not hugely impressed recently with Russia. What was your take on all of that?
They talked recently on the phone, Vladimir Putin and Netanyahu, but I will say it is, I would say, extremely difficult, but even impossible for us to be a peace broker, because Israel has number one partner, number two and number three, and this is United States. If it is totally oriented on the United States, and sometimes, as I understand, even do not listen to the guidance from Washington, that is not the way one can be a peace broker. We know that Turkey is doing a lot about that, of course, and we wish to President Erdogan good health and continue his efforts on that side, because they are valuable, absolutely, and he should continue them. But before thinking about final peace and what is going to be in the Middle East, one have to resolve first foremost issues like who is going to rebuild Gaza, who is going to pay for rebuilding Gaza, who is going to provide the resources for that, and we have no answer for this. So it's a long process. It's an extremely difficult process.
You mentioned President Erdogan. I want to ask you about the Black Sea grain initiative, which he was heavily involved in, and Turkiye played a role in bringing Russia, the United Nations and Ukraine together. What needs to happen for that Black Sea grain deal to be restarted in 2024?
This is easy question. Of course, a grain deal has two parts. One part is allowing Ukrainian ships to bring grain to Bosphorus and further, and grain from Ukraine. The second part was facilitation for Russia of conditions to bring our grain on the market or to the third world, to the south of it. First part has been implemented. Second part, which concerns Russia, it is insurance, normal insurance of ships. It is provision of them normal conditions to bring grain, facilitation of all kinds of it. Because if they are under sanctions, they cannot enter ports. There is different ceilings on it. Nothing has been done on the second part of it.
Is President Erdogan someone that can be seen as a peace broker, someone who has international respect on both sides?
As far as I understand, President Erdogan is conducting very independent policy. He's very experienced. He has a very high reputation in the world right now, and it is both. Let it be with us, with the South countries, in the United States as well, in Europe. So he is a personality who can achieve quite a lot.
So just to be clear, the Black Sea grain deal can be resurrected, but only if Russia gets what it wants.
The answer is yes, absolutely. Conditions are over there. United Nations experts try to do something in banking, in ensuring, and doing so, but they have met resistance from US and European countries and European Union itself.
Looking ahead to 2024, there are also the Olympic Games taking place in Paris. We're told that Russian athletes will be allowed to compete, but no flags, no logos, no emblems. Do you think that is fair?
Absolutely not. This is absolutely unfair. Why there are sanctions, there is no explanation for that. There are 28 conflicts in the world that are going on.
But it's not about conflicts, it was about Russians using drugs and cheating. That was what...
No. The explanation is because of the situation in Ukraine, primarily. It is not because of all of that. It is totally... There are two different things. One is our deal with this anti-narcotic agency. We are trying to settle it and all of that, but they are forbidden to take part in the different competitions and in different ways of sports because of Ukraine. This is pure political decision which has nothing to do with the principles of sports, of Olympic Games. Sport and peace, that's one thing. And they are sanctioned for nothing. We will look at the conditions, at the final conditions that will be put to the Russian athletes. But I don't believe that many will be going in this situation.
A lot of people in the West are concerned about Alexei Navalny, who seems to have disappeared. What's your update on? Can you tell us where he is or anything about his condition?
I have no idea, frankly speaking, because we do not follow Alexei Navalny. Probably he has a certain profile in the West, but in Russia he has very low profile. And not many people are eager to understand where he is, what is with him. He's serving his term, and for the deeds that he has done, criminal deeds, and he got a sentence, he's serving his sentence for that.
People in the West would say he was just an opposition figure that President Putin didn't like and had to take him out.
He has no popularity in Russia. He is popular in the West, I would say. He used to be popular in the West, but in Russia he has no political weight.
So you see him as a criminal?
He has committed crimes, of course, definitely.
My final question, Ambassador. In 2024, do you think we will see a peace deal? I go back to my earlier questions. Russia, Ukraine, is it time to sit down and hammer out some sort of a peace?
Well, of course, everybody, including me, hope that a peace will come soon. Either it will be next year, but we will have to achieve goals we have discussed with you. Otherwise, it will be the threat for Russia will continue to exist. We cannot tolerate it. We are sovereign countries. Our interests should be always taken into account, and our security is very valuable for our internal development.
Ambassador Kelin, thanks for your time on Roundtable.
Thank you very much.